passionalized, and you basically, it's obvious that broadcast is where you come from or where your experience really lies. But what exactly if you're going to describe what you do and where you passionalize, what work would you...
Okay, that's a difficult one for someone who turned almost every single hobby into a profession. I think, basically it's communication in a way. I did, throughout my life, I wanted to communicate things. So I did that through, drawings and doodlings and cartoons, and I did it through broadcasting and through writing. And my passion lies in learning things and passing my learnings to others. And to do that genuinely with audiences and to believe in what you do, it's always a very fulfilling experience, because when I did نقطة حوار, for example, point for debate, it was not the conclusions that mattered to me. I didn't care what sort of conclusion people come up with. What mattered to me is how you do things, is how you engage in a debate, and how you can create a constructive debate, and how you get people to listen to one another, and how you get people to respond to arguments that are being posed to them rather than arguments that they thought existed but they actually have never been said. Right now I do two things. I created MeSocial.me as a consultancy, training and strategy body that offers what I call a 360 degrees media experience, because what I realized throughout my career is that there is a strong segmentation between two things. And I realized that there are good reasons for this segmentation to be. The traditional media experience and the new media / social media experience. One created by people who wanted to say something to the world or to themselves or to the bosses. And the other is created by technologists who stumbled upon something and ended up exploiting this phenomenon to create business around it. And the professionals came into the picture a little bit late. So what you have now, especially on the media side, I don't know, for example, one single social media company that works with the media. Interestingly enough, social media companies work mostly with marketing and branding and campaigning and you name it. But you can hardly find one, and if you find one, it will be one that works with the media and engage with the media in a way that they do when they engage with business to do marketing, branding, and awareness and campaigning and all of that stuff. So, and what happens most of the time when people create a TV channel or a program is that they do this, they launch it, and then they get their nephew or niece to run the Facebook page, yes, or a Twitter account, or get somebody to do anything. Just let's have a page on the web, and they do it. And then you find things like, the program of so and so ended. Tweet. And I just wonder, when you put something like this on Twitter, do you expect me to go now and watch? So you are telling me because the program is boring, and now you are letting me know that, be happy, the program is over. You can listen or watch our channel. So I work with people when they conceptualize these ideas and create that new media experience, where they have to really understand it is not a must. You don't have to have a social media arm. You don't have to. You just have to understand your audience, your message, the platforms that you need to be on, the objectives of that whole enterprise program, TV channel, what they want to do, and how to reach that. And if you're going to use social media, for example, why do you want to use it? Is it to market your thing, to promote your program, to let people know about it, to engage with them, to get feedback, to integrate their content, to get, what is it that you want to do with it? So you create that, you tailor-make that experience based on the tools that you have and the platforms that existed. So that's one thing that we do. And sometimes also we engage in restructuring either TV channels or media operations. And we also engage in training, initiatives. I'm talking to somebody now because I was hoping at some point in time that I would run something like 7 big crash courses outside Cairo. Each one is attended by something like 100 to 200 people, to create some kind of a social awareness of what happens around you and get people to know how to use the tools that they have to report on their own society, and to introduce the concept, the tools, your mobile phones, the type of software that you can use, the type of things that you can do in order to authenticate what you create so that people don't find it difficult to use it, and it is not disputed as soon as you send it, and talk a little bit more about the role of media in society. So I'm working with somebody, trying to see if we can do this sort of 7 seminars outside Cairo with 100, 200 people. That probably can be a good pool of people from which you will elect and select later on somebody who would want to be a journalist later on. So that's one. The last thing, and quickly, is Mindbox, which is another company that I have, and that will be working. We haven't started doing anything yet, and I'm going to stabilize this first and do the other one. And it's about creative, interactive, engaging, innovative media production that can be anything from interactive apps to children books on iTunes to even print. Because I have 2 kids, 5 and 7, and I struggle to find children books for them. And I would like to do something to sort of work in that area and make something available either electronically or in hard copy. So, and from that we can create, TV channels, TV programs and any sort of media production or media product that has an innovative, creative aspect to it, doesn't fit under the current formats that we have, and can be of value to the society, which is another thing that I'm very much interested in. And I'm working, away from these, I'm working on creating an extended experience, a new talk show that I hope will launch in Egypt sometime in a month or 2, I have no idea. Discussions take a long time in Egypt, but I'm keen on working in Egypt. That's why I came back, after I don't know how many years, 25 something years, because I think I would like to do something here because it's buzzing with the creative energy, and I regret that I haven't been here from the revolution onwards. And I know that lots of people are frustrated, but I'm not. And I'm extremely excited and optimistic.
What's your expectation of the future of media? You're saying that the audience or the users by time are taking over. Like, what's your expectation of the future of media?
Trends are changing, and users are setting the trends, supported by the technologists who are creating various outlets for either consumption or production. So the future, the future is a very big topic, but you will see more integration and more engagement. We are talking now, for example, in TV terms, we are talking about what I call TV 2.0, and some others talk about it and call it social TV. And it seems to me that we have a lot of passion around the name, but the format hasn't shaped up yet. If you look at the literature that surrounds social TV, anything that has a tweet in it becomes social TV, and I don't think this is the case. There is an attempt, again from the technologists, to integrate tools that would allow social integration and implementation in a program. So it would be a feed from Twitter, Sliver for Facebook, some way of integrating this and that on the screen, which in my view would be the technical implementation. The biggest thing is the editorial implementation. How can you create an experience that would be inclusive, and the technology is not really that obvious in it. It doesn't smack of technology, because one of the biggest problems that traditional TV people like myself have is when we think about a new program, a new TV program which has technology in it, we get some young people and who can play with computers, and we put the program and they go on air and they play with the computer and everybody will be happy. You go to the TV executive and ask him, he says, well, these are young people and this is a new thing, technology and computers and stuff. And actually what they do is they abandon every single understanding of what TV is about, and technology plays a much bigger role than it should. So a TV program usually has a presenter. That presenter has charisma and presence, and when you do something, it has to be relevant to the audience. It doesn't alienate. If you use the technology in this way, you alienate your audiences, and so on and so forth. So the new experiences that would matter are the experiences that will have that kind of integration and engagement between the technical and the editorial, whereby you would sit back and you start enjoying the experience of watching or reading or consuming the information. So I hope the answer is it's not a clear cut. I cannot give you bullet points, but I hope I gave you the feel. It's probably like my mustika piraka in the beginning. So don't just listen to what I said, feel it.
What's the biggest challenge you face as a journalist going into new media?
It's an interesting one. I had a very different experience because I befriended computers since 1993. That was my first sort of face-to-face encounter with a computer. It was a classic, a Mac classic. And at the time, the print industry was getting into computers. And I was the only journalist in my newspaper that had a computer because people knew that this guy probably can play with them, so let's give him one. And the head of the IT department was a friend of mine, or he liked me at the time. He didn't like me afterwards. And he gave me one. As soon as I went on holiday, my boss took it. And when I came back, he had it on his desk, looking at it, and he was wondering, it doesn't seem to be getting the new news. He was sitting, looking at it, and it doesn't do anything. It's not like the TV, it doesn't do anything. So I got it back. So my challenge was not really about new media. My challenge has been always journalists. When I worked in the traditional media industry, I was the geek. I was the youngest ever head of BBC Arabic. So everybody looked at me, a young guy, he knows technology and computers, he did the website, and he does nice things, platform integration, interactivity, let him do it. And I had difficulties because most of the people that I worked with are either older than me or people who have employed me. Because at some point in time, I worked as a freelance for the BBC. So anyone who has a spare time, who doesn't want to work, they would commission me to do the work for them. So come and do this piece for me, come and translate this, and fine, okay, let's do that. For me to be the boss afterwards, that became a challenge. I'm much younger, and at the same time, I talk a language that everybody around me says is totally irrelevant. You are irrelevant. I'll tell you something else. When I went back to the BBC, I had that idea of doing the electronic coffee tales, حكايات المقهى الإلكتروني. And it was conveying concepts and stories, like the stories that I told you in the beginning, from which you can get an understanding of what I understand around the media and information sort of things. So at the time, I wasn't a BBC radio breed. I was a TV breed, and the TV operation was distant from the radio operation. It was created in White City, not in Bush House. Started, closed down, and we haven't seen many of the guys of the radio that has been broadcasting since 1938. So when I went back from Doha after my stint with Al Jazeera, I went and I met Gaiman McClellan, the head of the service at the time, and I offered him to do this, and he said, okay, well, you talk to Arif Higgawi, the head of the features department. I think it's a good idea. Talk to Arif. He said, okay, well, why don't you do a pilot? I did a pilot in which I talked about friends of mine and Superman magazine and Mickey and lots of things, but at the end of the day, there was something about information technology. He said, okay, fine, let's invite everybody. He got everybody in the Arabic service on the day in a room and introduced me as the young guy who used to work for the TV channel that was closed down because it was bad, and now I'm doing this radio program. They sat there, they listened to it, and sort of unanimously, with the exception of one person, and I'm going to tell you what he said, they decided that this is a crap program. It's not going to work. We tried technology before, didn't get one single response or feedback from our audience. The guy that said something nice about it said, this is very interesting, it's really funny, I don't think it's sustainable. That's the first and last. Anyway, that was one of my best programs, actually, and that was one of the programs that the BBC sort of cherished because we got lots of responses and feedback for it. So that sort of mindset was the biggest challenge. So I was the geek in the BBC. When I went to Yahoo, I was the old fart. I'm coming from traditional media. What does he know about the new media things? He doesn't know anything. We talk money here, serious money. He's coming from public service. So it's always working with people who have a very set mindset about you or about the things that matter to me. But when you work with them, some would respond, some would not respond. Some would feel bitter forever. Some would start seeing things differently. And I think the biggest challenge also for me is to understand their experiences and where they come from. So allow for quite a lot of room when you engage with others who are of a different view than yours. And that's what I learned from my experience.
There were more questions? Yeah, we can take a couple more. We're leaving this room at 2:20.
Do you think from your experience or your friends or colleagues' experience that the Arab Spring countries are profiting now from better situation or freedom of expression compared to the previous period?
A very good question. No, I think I should say something like, I'm glad you asked this question or something. أنا سعيد إنك سألت السؤال ده. He exploited the technique, actually. It's a technique in interviewing. But anyway, I am very optimistic about what's happening, and I keep on saying, because we have a very interesting tendency to weep and sort of, lash ourselves and things like that. And in every single conference I attend, I find people really weeping about, you know, the state of matters and affairs in relation to the media professionals, and how bad journalism is, and what people are, you know, it's really crap. Most of it is crap. We are 10 times better than how we were 1 year ago, and 100 times better than how we were 10 years ago. I couldn't think of something better that happened to us before and during and after the revolution than this exposure to what I call the extended electronic conscience of the world. In the old days, I had an archive, and I think every one of us had. And that archive, you know, it could be, you know, it depends on how big your home is and how good you are at collecting trash. But it's, you know, you have that drawer, and then you have a file. You know, one of them would be something like, you know, the water wars, you know, problem of water in the Middle East. And then another one would be Arab-Israeli relations. And a third one would be, I don't know, you know, as a journalist, you collect this trash and you put it together and so on and so on. Now you don't have that. You don't need to. You know, in my way, I was trying to find Marshall McLuhan's picture so that I can add it to this slide, and I couldn't find it. And it took me a split of a second to get it from the internet, nick it, copy it, paste it, and you have it here. What could be better than this? You know, I can, you know, of course there were challenges there, because the ease of exploiting, nicking, stealing information is turning us into people who compile things together rather than write. You know, most students now don't write. They cut and paste and bridge, which is a different art. And I'm not saying it's worse, you know. I'm one of the very few people who wouldn't sort of say that, you know, this is the end of the world, and, you know, in our old days we would write every single word and every single letter in it. Who cares, you know? Copy and paste, do whatever you like, but understand what you're doing, bridge it, you know, create that context, and that's a different experience. That's a new experience. You know, I mean, if you nick something, you have to attribute. Just because, don't misunderstand me. Yeah, you have to attribute. But it's definitely much better, and I think you know, I can, and I have said it. You know, one of the things, and if you search YouTube, you might find this one. I was once interviewed, sort of 1 week after Mubarak's departure, on it was Khairi Ramadan's program. And the reason for that interview is that I met Khairi, and I was really angry because I was away when the revolution happened, and then the program disappeared and the program came back. And I was really angry, so I rang him and said, Khairi, I need to see you. And we met on that fantastic day when Abdul Latif al-Manawi was interviewed on TV, and Anas al-Fiqi طلع, وبعدين محمود سعد اتخانق معاهم وقال له انت قاعد بالبيجامه بتتفرج, all of that stuff. It was really nice. So I was sitting with Khairi watching this, and I said, Khairi, you really are making a big mistake. You know, if you assume that you will have a couple of people sitting with you in a TV interview, and you get a couple of young guys, and you start lecturing who? You are lecturing them that, you know, history is not made like this. You know, in the old times, you know, when the revolution did this and that, they went to the king and they said, please, 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 dear king, leave the country and we will rule it. You know, you cannot do this with it. It doesn't work this way. You know, you cannot talk to these guys like that. Any young chap that you are getting in your program is 3 times more experienced than any of the guys that you are interviewing who are double their age. You don't understand this generation. So he interviewed me, you know, he asked me to come and talk to him about this, which I didn't talk to him about it at all, because I ended up talking about the military council, and it was another, you know, sort of catastrophe. But that, you know, that generation that is coming up now, you know, I'm saying they have a lot of creative energy, and they have a lot of substance and a lot of exposure. You know, I can remember the first time when I saw a magazine that was printed in a different language. But, you know, now you can talk to somebody who speaks a different language. Even if you don't speak the language, you can use software that can help you with the experience, and you can be exposed to a completely different culture. And that you start at the age of 14, 13, 12. We did that at the age of 30. So it's a different experience, different generation, and it will change the whole world. So it's definitely positive.
Can I ask a question, because I think it's relevant to our students who are, particularly the ones who are graduated now. What kind of work opportunities are media students going to have in this upcoming age? Do you see them moving traditional or into the social media world? Or how do you see it?
I think they will move the world to them, because there will be no more a traditional media experience as such, or a new/social media experience. The experience will change, and they will change it. So what we will see, I mean, the journalist who would work for a particular platform is no longer there because users moved away from this. I do, and Dr. Hussein remember definitely, that we used to see people who would say, you know, I'm a radio person. You know, I don't watch TV, I'm a radio person. Or I'm a BBC person. Now people don't even know what they are consuming. They don't know if it's a BBC or a Channel 4 or whatever. It's the context that they are consuming is what matters to them. When they go through their social experience, they will see different reports, packages, articles on their Facebook page. They are not following one particular platform or medium. So it's what you say that matters. And the new mode of thinking is about embracing that because the users have already done so. Users have embraced the concept. You need to learn from them and do it in exactly the same way. So it's not really, I'm not a platform person. A long time ago, I did a presentation in the BBC called Radio is Dead. And of course, that's heresy in an organization that has been working as a radio channel since 1938. But what I meant is that radio as a device is dead. Listening will not die. People will continue to listen, they will continue to read, they will continue to watch static and moving images. Now, they watch it on a potato peeler, on the back door of a fridge, on whatever, it doesn't matter. And you will continue to be an integral part of that experience, the experience that you create for people to consume this wherever they consume it. So it's not going to be a platform driven.
I just want to ask about what do you think of some of the news agencies like Khazd or the Egyptian news network, things that are built only on Facebook and Twitter. They only use these two media channels to reach people and they don't have any radio channel. Or what do you think about this?
Yeah, tell me what you think about it.
I think that they're not fully a media, a mass media operators like the BBC or any channel, because like for instance BBC, they have the web-based part radio and TV. So I'm having to see something just through statuses on Facebook and tweets on Twitter. I'm not seeing this as a media operator that can be.
I beg to differ. The essence of the matter is to see what you have and what you can do with it. So it's not really, you know, you have to be user-oriented and means-oriented. So it doesn't really matter what you have, but you have to exploit it fully. Now Rust has made a name, even though that it exists only on a very limited platform. And that is because Rust knew how to access the rest of the platforms through what they do. So they focused on what they do, and through that focus, they managed to have viewers on other platforms. What I said earlier was not about having as a must to create an integrated media offer on various platforms. That's not a must. It is important to understand what you can do, what you want to do, who are the audiences that you want to reach, and how you can reach them with what you have. And when you do this well, you will be able to have your impact. So it is not a must, really, to have an arm in every single platform. It's just about your ability to exploit the means that you have to deliver the highest impact possible and the highest reach possible with it.
Any more questions? One last question, come on. Professor Sarah Khalili always likes to give the last question.
But the last question actually is about, I'm impressed by your optimism. I mean, you came back to Egypt after all these years to start working now when everyone else is trying to jump off.
That's an opportunity, you know, because there's nobody left.
So just give me 3 reasons why I give you optimism.
I will tell you a couple of reasons, maybe more than 3, less than 3, I don't know. One is, I said something along these lines, you know, I can feel a lot of creative energy here. And I think it needs to be channeled, and it can be channeled, and it can be a business opportunity. And I hear lots of interesting ideas. I see people doing things that are half-cooked. You know, I know people who are working on some very interesting things. I wish I can work with them because it needs the final touch that would make it something that is much more impressive and much more creative, or at least the creativity that is embedded in can shine a little bit more. And I would like to work with more of these people. So that's one reason, and that's exciting. You know, I decided at some point in life to, I'm أنا 50 وماشي في ال 51. I'm 50 and I'm approaching 51 slowly. And you know, at some point in time, you have to think what you really want to do. And I'm fed up with corporates. You know, I had my nice time with both Yahoo and the BBC. It's a good thing to have on my CV and to have my name associated with it, but I don't want to work with the big guys anymore. I declined lots of offers after I left, even though that my departure has not been announced, because I do not want to work with big corporates or organizations. It's killing. And I realized in the last 2 or 3 years that I have been wasting something like 90% of my time in things that I don't think are useful to me or to anyone. You know, 10% of my time and energy would be put into the things that I really love, and 90% are not. So I decided to put as much as I can into what I would love to invest in.
The talk show. You said something about the talk show. Is that another reason you're back?
Well, not really. I mean, it is and it isn't, because I could do the talk show in Dubai. I could do the talk show in Doha.
That was going to be my follow-up question. You've done these things elsewhere.
Well, you have a problem with Dubai. You have a problem. I mean, these are the 2 places that I know well and who are interested in my work, but it's becoming politically problematic in a way. And actually, I would like to do something here. You know, there is a bit of nostalgia. You grow out of the country. I come back and I feel younger because I continue from where I stopped. You know, I lived different lives. You know, in Finland and Germany, I was more of a cartoonist and a freelance journalist. In the UK, I was working in print and media, and in Dubai, I did something different. I come back to Egypt, I'm a fresh graduate. You know, I've just left the university. You know, seeing my friends and wonder why they look a little bit old to me. They don't look the same. And of course, I'm not aware that I look much older now. But it's sort of it's going back in history. It's, you know, remembering my childhood and, you know, the times that I spent with my friends. It's deciding to live what I believe is quality life, even though that most people don't think that Egypt is quality life now. But I do believe it is for me. So there are really a lot of reasons. I mean, some of them are emotional, some of them are personal, but I think, you know, from a business perspective, anyone who would like to invest in something new and innovative should come here.
So the politics shouldn't be, I mean, the political turmoil that we're witnessing is not discouraging?
If you are a journalist, where else would you want to live today? You know, would I go to Honduras, for example? I don't know how stable it is, but, you know. But, you know, Malaysia, you know, definitely it's one of the most exciting places to live in because of that sort of circus that we are watching every day. Where else you would be surprised every day with things that no one on the face of the planet can predict. You cannot predict anything here. You know, in other places you can sort of, I guessed so. You know, when I left the BBC, I had some predictions about what's going to happen to the BBC in a year from now. And they happened exactly in the same way. When I left Yahoo, I said exactly the same thing to my friends. I said, by the way, I'm leaving, and I can tell you this and that will happen. In Egypt, I cannot predict what's going to happen in the next hour.
So
it's fun. Well, it probably will teach me something, you know, when you see all these irregularities, because irregularities are not really irregularities. Chaos is not chaos. Chaos is organized in such a way that we wouldn't recognize how organized it is now. So probably we'll be able to decipher it at some point in time, and we will learn something from the chaos that we live in to be able to elicit and extract some wisdom.
If we survive.
Okay, I just want to wrap this up again, thanking Mr. Hosam El Sokkari for being here.
Thank you.
Thanking Professor Mervat, our chair, for helping us have this.
Thank you.
And Dr. Amin for being here. All the wonderful professors who made it, but most of all, my students.
Thank you very much. الاستابلشمنت في الميديا اندستري بشكل عام is an old establishment. يعني الفريم اوف مايند او طريقه التفكير اللي موجوده عند معظم اللي بيتحكموا في سوق العمل في قطاع الاعلام في العالم العربي بشكل عام وفي مصر بالتحديد، الاطار الذهني قديم شويه ومحتاج تحديث، وبناء عليه بيبقى في دايما نظره دونيه الى حد ما لاي شيء جديد او اي شيء مش مفهوم او اي شيء مستقبلي. وده بيتغير بمرور الوقت. يعني التطورات اللي بتحصل من مجهودات افراد محدوده على الوسائط الجديده بتفرض نفسها على العالم الثاني، على العالم التقليدي. ففي حاله من الاندماج بتحصل واحنا شايفينها دلوقتي، وفي حاله من الانتباه موجوده عند القطاع المسؤول عن اجهزه الاعلام ووسائط الاعلام بمفهومها التقليدي. فانا شايف ان ده هيغير كتير قوي في الفتره اللي جايه، وشايف ان في علامات كتيره قوي انه الناس ابتدت تفكر بشكل مختلف، وانه حتى قطاع الاعلام التقليدي او التقليديين في قطاعات الاعلام اللي لسه تقليديه شويه ابتدوا يغيروا نظرتهم للي بيحصل حواليهم. هو حلو قوي اللي انت بتسميه اعلام رسمي ده، لانه مفيش حاجه في العالم لما تيجي تترجم الكلمه حتى مش هتلاقي لها مقابل في اي لغه تانية او في اي مفهوم ثقافي تاني خالص. فاعلام الرسمي انترستنج يعني، او يعني تسميه ظريفه يعني، وتعكس واقع حال لكن لا تعكس له مأمول ولا تعكس ستراكشر حقيقي. انت في حاجه اسمها اعلام عام، في حاجه اسمها public broadcasting او public media، ودي مسؤوليه الدوله، وده بيقدم بنش مارك، بيقدم مستوى من الخدمه الاعلاميه اللي المفروض الناس بتقيس عليه، مش عشان هو حلو ولا وحش، بس عشان مش مرتبط باي اتجاهات. ده ناقص في مصر، يعني الاعلام اللي موجود فيه خلط بين اعلام الدوله، والدوله مش وحشه على فكره، اعلام الدوله اللي هو الاعلام العام، الاعلام بتاع الناس، يعني زي المستشفيات ما هي مستشفيات الدوله، وزي ما المكتبه العامه مكتبه الدوله، فالاعلام برضو اعلام دوله من ناحيه ده، يعني مملوكه للكل وليست مملوكه للسلطه اللي بتحكم او للحكومه اللي بتوجهنا. لما الناس تبتدي السياسيين يبقى عندهم درجه اعلى من الوعي شويه عشان يعرف ايه الفرق بين الحكومه وبين الدوله، ويعرف ايه الفرق بين دوره في الحكومه والحاجات اللي ما يتلعبش فيها في الدوله، هيبقى فيه هيبقى فيه شيفت ناحيه اللي احنا ممكن نسميه public service broadcasting. ودي حاجه انا مهتم ان انا يبقى لي دور فيها، وبكلم ناس عندهم مشروعات بنصحهم يعني كصديق انه السيجمنت اللي ناقصه والجاب اللي موجوده جاب خاصه بمساله الاعلام العام او اعلام الدوله. يعني انت اللي حاصل عندك في مصر دلوقتي في اللي احنا بنسميه سيجمنتيشن عالي قوي، في سيجمنت من الاودينس، والسيجمنتيشن ده حاصل مع الادوات بتاعته، يعني الاودينس بادواته، وفي اودينس تاني بادوات تانيه خالص، تلفزيونات تانيه بتاعته خالص، وبيخلق عالمين موازيين ما لهمش علاقه ببعض. لما يبقى عندك public service broadcasting بيبقى عندك حاجه across the piece، حاجه للناس كلها، وده الاسبيريشن اللي المفروض يبقى موجود. شوف لا انت بتلمس حاجه مهمه جدا، يعني انا يعني I've had my experience، يعني عندي تجربتي في الحياه يعني. اللي انا اقدر اقوله لاي حد في اصغر مني شويتين وعايز يبدا، واحد انه ما يعملش حاجه بيحبهاش. يعني اذا كنت متخيل انك انت جاي المهنه دي عشان حاجات معينه مالهاش علاقه بالمهنه دي، انسى. وادعو الناس كلها انها تشوف في مسرحيه عرايس اسمها صح لما ينجح. معرفش شفتها ولا لا؟ طب تعرف الليله الكبيره؟ طب كويس. بعد الليله الكبيره في حاجه اتعملت اسمها صح لما ينجح. في مشهد عظيم جدا في مسرحيه صح لما ينجح، كان صح نفسه يجي له ساعه. كويس؟ وفي مشهد بيحلم ان هو هيجي له ساعه والشمس طلعت له عشان تجي له ساعه، فبتساله عايز ساعه ليه يا صح؟ فصح يقول لها انا عايز اتعايق بيها، فتضربه. يقول لها طب انا عايز اوريها لاصحابي، فتضربه. لان صح كان كسول. فلو في صحفي شايف ان هو داخل المهنه دي علشان ياخد اراضي في العجمي او البطاش او الساحل الشمالي من نقابه، ياخد ابونيه عشان يركب بيه ببلاش في الاتوبيس، يخش المهنه دي علشان يروح يتعرف على الناس السياسيين المهمين ويعرف ياخد منهم مصالح وامتيازات، او يتصور معاهم او يعمل اي حاجه، دي حاجات مالهاش علاقه باللي احنا بنعمله. واخد بالك؟ يعني اتمنى ان يبقى في جيل جديد عايز يعمل نقابه صحفيين مختلفه، ما هياش بتاعه مصالح بتاعه سكر وزيت، نقابه صحفيين بتحمي مصالح الصحفيين. وده كونسبت لو اتقدم النهارده اعتقد انه اللي هيقدمه هيسقط، يعني لو حد قدم الكونسبت ده ان ده مهنه لحمايه المهنه والمهنيين هيسقط، لانه اغلب الناس دلوقتي هتبقى عايزه ابونيه الاتوبيس واراضي العجمي والساحل الشمالي. بس المهنه دي عشان حاجه ثانيه، ما تعملهاش اذا كنت بتحبها، ولما تعملها ما تنساش انه هدفك الاول والاخير انك انت تورك على الكوميونيكيشن بتاع المسج وتسهل الناس ان هي تتواصل مع بعضيها، لكن مش هدفك انك انت تبقى كاتب خطير وانك انت تبقى المفكر الذي لا يشق له غباره، لان في فرق كبير برضو بين الصحف وبين مهنه الاديتوريال او الكاتب او المفكر او الكلام ده كله. فبس الناس تعمل اللي بتحبه بحب وتخلص اللي بتعمله، يعني التفنيش البايظ اللي في مصر كله في كل حاجه ده برضو موجود على الصحافه. يعني انت لو رحت النهارده تصلح حاجه مش هتصلح كويس، لو رحت تركب حاجه، رحت تشتري حاجه ما حدش هيخدمك كويس، لو رحت تجيب حد يظبط لك ما فيش حد بيعمل حاجه كويس. فلو الصحفي كمان مهتم ان هو يبقى كويس، يتعلم اللغه بتاعته كويس ويتعلم ادواته كويس ويهتم انه يعمل ده عشان نفسه، عشان يبقى حلو، مش عشان الناس تسقف له، عشان يبقى كويس مش عشان الناس تديله فلوس. لو عمل ده كويس يعني هيبقى حاجه جميله خالص. فدي نصيحتي اذا كنت يعني عايز مني نصيحه.